Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video I'm going to be talking about Halloween novellas. So I have recently read 10 Halloween novellas and I'm just going to run through all of the ones I've read recently and let you know whether I think they are worth picking up or not. So I have already done a review video for the Scared Sexy collection, which they won't be included in this video, but if you are looking for more Halloween novellas, then I would recommend checking out that video. I do really enjoy reading novellas, particularly seasonal novellas, because it's a great way to kind of read new authors, try different maybe tropes or subgenres that you may not be familiar with and want to kind of decide whether it is something that you want to explore. And also, as I say, it's a great way to pick up new authors. On this list I've got a mixture of authors I've read from before as well as new authors. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what I enjoy in a novella and then I'll dive into the list. So for me personally, I classify a novella as anything that is under 200 pages. And obviously you can get really short novellas and obviously ones are close to that 200 page limit. For me personally, my favourite length is anywhere between the 100 to 200 page mark. Anything below 100 pages, usually I don't love as much. They tend to be more just kind of spicy, fun, quick reads, which there's nothing wrong with those, but it's very difficult for those to get a high rating because they are so short. So personally, for me, the 100 to 200 page mark is kind of my preferred. I also prefer the novellas that I read to be a complete story. So I know some authors do kind of prequel novellas to their new series to kind of introduce new series or new characters. I am not always the biggest fan of those because I prefer a complete story rather than a kind of build up to a series. So I've got most of the ones on this list. In fact, I think all of them apart from maybe one, which is well, there's two that are parts of series, but you can definitely read them as like a complete story. But I'll obviously explain that when I get into it. So I'm going to dive into the books that I have read. All of these books are available on Kindle Unlimited and I will leave links to all of them down below. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is Carving for Kara by Melissa McSherry and Dana Lee Ann, and this one I gave 4 stars to, so I would recommend this one. This is a dark romance Halloween novella, so I would definitely recommend checking your trigger warnings for this one because it is dark. So in this one we follow our female main character Kara, who is basically being stalked by this guy, and he kind of follows her around and he follows her to a Halloween party. Now at this party she has her an ex that is there, and he doesn't really treat her very well, and the guy that is stalking her definitely takes his revenge on this ex, and what he does to the ex is really, really brutal. And definitely, as I say, check your trigger warnings for this one because it is graphic what he does, and if you are squeamish about things with eyeballs, I'd maybe stay clear of this one, because to kind of spoil it, he basically carves the guy up like a pumpkin, which is hence for the title. So yeah, definitely a much darker read. I don't read a ton of dark romance, but I have read a bit, but it's not necessarily my favourite thing to read, but this one I had a good time reading. Next we have Honeybloods by I.S. Bell, which is book 1 in the Honeybloods series, and I didn't really enjoy this one. I gave this one 2 stars. So this one is a sapphic vampire novella, and those are two things that I love, sapphic romances and vampire books I absolutely love. So this has the recipe for me to love it, but I just sadly didn't enjoy this one. This one we follow 2 girls who used to be best friends, but they kind of drifted apart, and when they were younger, when they were friends, they made this kind of pact that they would be there for one another no matter what, and if one of them ever needed to help burying a body, they'd be there. It was kind of like a joking, you know, they made this pact, but it was kind of like a joke, like, oh, if you ever need to bury a body, I'll be there for you, sort of thing. and one of them gets turned into a vampire, and so she does have a body that she needs to bury, and they kind of come back together. And this one ends up being a bit of a road trip book because the girl that's been turned into a vampire was turned into a vampire by by a member of this boy band, and so they decide to kind of follow the boy band as they're traveling across the country to try and figure out why they turned this girl and find out a bit more about being a vampire, basically. So it ends up being a bit of a road trip book, but sadly I didn't really enjoy this one. I feel like there was a lot of things that I should have liked, but I just didn't enjoy the writing or the romance in here, and it's not one that I plan to continue on with. Next we have Scary in Love by Holly June Smith, and I really enjoyed this one and gave this one 4.5 stars. This is definitely one of my favourites that I have read, and this one we are following Jenna and Mason. And Jenna loves all things spooky and scary. Halloween is one of her favourite holidays. And they're in the small town that she lives in, there is this old mansion. There's always been kind of rumours of it being haunted. And recently someone has moved into there and they decide to turn it into a haunted mansion for the Halloween season. So it's kind of like one of those like scare farms that people go to, you know, where you can go and basically there's actors there who are it's there to kind of scare people. And Mason is the owner of the house and he is putting on this haunted house for everyone, and Jenna is very excited to go, and she ends up going there on a first date with this guy who is a little bit of a scaredy cat, and he gets scared very quickly on when they almost like first enter the haunted house. He gets scared and he ends up like running away scared, and whilst he's doing that she ends up knocking Jenna over, so she ends up getting injured in the first kind of room of the house. And because it's a kind of commercial business that Mason is obviously running, he has to fill out a accident report, and he is immediately attracted to Jenna, and what they decide to do is that Mason is going to make his own haunted house just for Jenna, and it's basically like a scare thing just for her. So she goes to the house on Halloween night all by herself, and it kind of goes from there. It's very spicy, and I had a great time reading this. This is a kind of complete story because we see them on this Halloween night, and then we also see them like later on throughout the years as they've had like children in the house, and we actually see them right up until the end when they are ghosts kind of haunting the house. And this one was really good. I definitely want to read more from this author. I know she's got a Christmas story. I don't think it's a novella. I think it's a bit longer than a novella length, but I do really want to check out more from this author in the future, and I would definitely recommend this one for the spooky season. So next we have Bitten on Halloween by Latrexa Nova, and this one I gave 3 stars to. This one I feel definitely could have benefited from being a full-length novel, because this is a Why Choose romance with 3 monsters and our female main character. So I can't remember her name. I'll try and put it on screen if I can recall what it is. But we have this female main character who ends up going to this ball. Her brother kind of forces her into going to this ball. And while she's at this ball, she meets 3 guys. One is a vampire, one is a werewolf, and one is a zombie. And she ends up having kind of relations with initially all of them separately and then all of them together. And it then turns out that her brother is this evil witch, and she also has magical powers. So they end up kind of joining forces together to kind of banish her brother, who is this evil witch. And I liked this one. It's definitely spicy. I like the kind of premise for the story, but as I say, this is one that I definitely feel could have benefited from being a full-length novel. There was a lot going on, and obviously we have 3 heroes that we're introduced to, so you never really get to know all of the heroes very well because it's so short. And then obviously, as I say, she finds out that her brother is a witch, and because of the length of the novella, she's very accepting of the fact that her brother is a witch and that she has magic powers. I feel like if this was a full-length novel, she would definitely have taken some time to kind of get used to the idea of being a witch and her brother being a witch. But overall it was a fun read, definitely a good one for Halloween if you are looking for a Why Choose romance. Then we have Fright Night by M.L. Philpitt, and this is part of the Twisted Holidays collection, and I gave this one 4 stars. So I enjoyed this one, and it is one that I would recommend. This one is a step-sibling romance, so if that is something that you aren't interested in, then I would probably recommend skipping it. But if you are open to reading step-sibling romances, then this could be one to check out. This one, the characters, they are step siblings, but their parents got married when they were late teens, so they haven't grown up together. I personally don't like step sibling romances where they've grown up together as like young kids. I feel like when they get together, when their parents get together when they're like older, like teenagers or adults, I'm not quite as I'm not quite as bothered by it. But when it's when they've not grown up together, I prefer that personally. So this one, parents got together and the step siblings never really got along, and they always kind of pulled pranks or tricks on one another. And the last trick that our female main character pulled on her stepbrother ended up with him getting sent away by his father, and he is now back in town, and he has decided that he is going to definitely play some tricks on our heroine, and there is kind of some stalking elements in here, and he definitely pushes her to her limits, is what I'm going to say. This one I had a good time reading. It is on the darker side, so again, check your trigger warnings. There is kind of stalking in here, and it is like I say, on the darker side, but overall I had a good time with this one. Next we have Midnight Mischief by Lila Andrews, and this one I liked and gave 3 stars to. This one is on the shorter side, so this one I feel like maybe if it was longer I could have enjoyed it more, but it is definitely very short. So this one is a dad's best friend romance. And so we have Zoe, who is at her family's Halloween party. Her parents have put on this Halloween party, and she is there, and she does know people there, but they're all kind of her parents' friends, and she ends up gets talking to her dad's friend Donovan, who is obviously her father's age, so significantly older than her, and they end up spending Halloween night together, and it is just a short, steamy novella. As I say, it's a fun read if you are wanting to kind of try out the dad's best friend and age gap trope. If it's not something you've read before, this might be something to check out, because of, as I say, one of the good things about reading novellas is that you can try out different tropes and things that you may not be 100% sure if you will enjoy. So reading a novella is a good way to kind of sample it to see if it is something that you would like, rather than committing to a full-length novel. But as I say, this one was pretty decent and one that I would recommend. Next we have Candy Lips by K.L. Mann, and this one I wouldn't necessarily recommend. This one I gave 2 stars. So again, this one is on the shorter side, and this is another step-sibling romance. This one is a sapphic romance, which is one of the reasons I picked it up. But overall I didn't really enjoy this one. There isn't really much of a plot to this one. It is basically just spice, which again, not necessarily a problem, but I do like a little bit more of a plot in my novellas, so this one was just a bit of a miss for me. Then we have Love and Other Killers by Bryn Weaver, and this one I gave 3 stars to. So this is part of the Ruinous Love series. It's book 3.5, so it's one to read after you've read the rest of the books in the series. I do think that you would benefit from reading the series before diving into this one, so it's not really one I would recommend if you haven't read the series, but it was a fun read. This one is available with the read and listen function on Kindle Unlimited, so you get the audiobook as well, which was quite fun. So if you haven't read the Ruinous Love trilogy, the Ruinous Love trilogy is basically a dark comedy romance, like a dark rom-com series. There is kind of humorous elements to it, but it is dark. The author lists out the triggers at the beginning of each book, and they are usually at least a page long. There is a lot of triggers for her books. And this one, we get to see the previous couples kind of competing in this game. So the couples in the previous books are made up of serial killers, and so they make this kind of like game up where they are going to go after a particular person. They decide who they're going to go after, and then the couples go out and hunt them down. It's like a game that they play, and this one was okay. As I say, if you're a fan of the series, you'll probably like it. The series for me was just an okay series. I didn't love it as much as everyone else seemed to, but I had a good time with this one, and if you're looking for a darker novella to read, this one is a good one to check out. Then we have Dirty Little Trick by Avery James King. This one I gave 2 stars to. Not my favourite and not necessarily one that I would recommend, but this is a friends to lovers romance, and we follow Raven and Griffin, and they have been friends for a really long time, and Raven has recently found out that her boyfriend has been cheating on her, so she is spending the night alone by herself on Halloween, and she's, as I say, home alone. And then she ends up, some mysterious things start happening at the house, the lights going off, there's this guy in a mask that turns up, and she gets very scared, but it turns out that it's her friend Griffin, who's initially kind of trying to scare her, and then it obviously ends up with them spending a night together. This one was okay, but I've read better friends to lovers stories, obviously because this was a novella. Although they were friends, you didn't really get to see much of them being friends, which for me is the key thing with a friends to lovers romance. It is seeing them having that friendship and then it developing into more feelings, whereas obviously because this is a novella, we didn't really see that. We knew that Griffin was her friend, it was mentioned that he was her friend, but we didn't really see that friendship. It just kind of went straight to them getting together. So not my favourite and not one that I would necessarily recommend. And the last one that I read was Ready or Not by Jen Plummer, which is book 1.5 in the Aspen Ridge series. Now I have not read this series, but I found this one whilst I was scrolling on Kindle Unlimited and I wanted to check it out, and I'm definitely glad that I did because I did really enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars, and I do plan to go and read the rest of the series at some point. It is a small town romance series. This one follows a particular couple and it is a complete story. I believe the characters are kind of briefly introduced in the first book, but you can definitely get away with just reading this one. I didn't have a problem with that. And this one we have Wes and Lilith, and this is a ex's dad romance. So I haven't read a ton of those, but it is definitely a trope that I want to explore more of, and this was a fun way to do it. So we have Lilith, who was dating Wes's son, I think his name's Adam, and Lilith is into more darker things than Adam was, and when she expressed her desires to Adam, he was kind of completely put off by that and was like, why on earth would you want to, why would you be interested in that? I'm like disgusted by her. And so they end up breaking things off. Wes is Adam's father, and he definitely has a darker side, and he is intrigued by Lilith, and there is a little bit of stalking going on in this one, and it's obviously their relationship, them getting together. There is kind of a slow build up to them getting together, and then it is quite spicy when they do get together and on the darker side of things. And I just had a good time with this one. I definitely love the small town vibes, and I feel like if I read the full length books I'd get even more of the small town. So if you are looking for a small town romance, ex's dad romance, then this is a good one to go for, and I would definitely recommend it. So they are all of the 10 novellas that I have read recently. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for Halloween novellas or novellas in general that you think I should check out, then please do let me know. I have done a Valentine's Day version of this, so I will leave that one linked down below if you want to see more kind of seasonal novellas, and I do plan to do a Christmas version as well of this. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next one.